Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Sauce. NFL Sunday. I just picked out two games to go through. It's week 18, so it's tough. There's a lot of meaningless games. But we will be live Sunday morning to go through them all. So I'm sure by then I'll have some more picks. But as of right now, just going to pick two games that I think are two of the most important ones. Let's go.
Welcome to the Sauce. The Sauce. Hey, get the sauce.
First up, NFC South. Bucs on the road at Carolina here. Line is now Carolina plus 4.5, which is down from 5.5. Total sitting at 36.5. Like I said, this line was at 5.5 earlier in the week. Dropped down to 4.5. Data is showing late action coming in on the Panthers, which makes sense. It's showing the public is pretty close to even, but data is showing the sharp action on the Panthers, which makes sense in accordance with the line movement down to 4.5. Injury-wise, a couple question marks on the Bucs offense. Baker Mayfield's actually listed as questionable, but he participated in a full practice on Friday, so it looks like he's going to play. Trey Palmer also listed as questionable at wide receiver, but he's been practicing all week, so looking like the Bucs should be at full strength offensively. They're also in pretty good shape on the defensive side as well. Bucs defense is completely healthy with the exception of Carlton Davis at corner. He's listed as questionable, but he's also been practicing all week, so he should be good to go as well. Panthers offense, there's a serious issue here at the guard position for Carolina. So Brady Christensen, he's supposed to be the left guard. He's been out pretty much this whole season. So I don't think he's played since week 1. He's been out for a while. The two guys who have been starting at guard for pretty much this whole year for Carolina, McCray and Corbett, they're both out. The fourth guard on their depth chart, his name is Cade Mays. He's listed as doubtful. So it's looking like Carolina is going to have the 5th and 6th guards on their depth chart starting in this game. Jonathan Mingo also out at wide receiver. So is Laviska Shenault, who would probably be the wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 with Mingo out. So Carolina, thin at guard and a couple issues at the wide receiver position. On the defensive side, Carolina is actually pretty healthy, which really hasn't been the case for them all season. Shaq Thompson's still out, but he's been out basically the whole year. J.C. Horn is listed as questionable, but he's most likely going to play. He participated in a full practice on Friday, so I'm counting on J.C. Horn being out there. So let's match these two teams up on the field. As you probably know, the Bucs are in a win and get in situation. Tampa Bay wins this game, they win the NFC South. They're going to need a better showing from the offense than they got last week. Now, if you look at Baker's numbers, really not terrible. He completed 66.7% of his passes, 309 yards, 9.4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a 91.6 passer rating. Those aren't terrible numbers. The problem, Tampa Bay didn't score a point in that game till 7 minutes and 50 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. They were down 20-0 at the time. How is that possible? Turnovers. The Bucs turned the ball over 4 times, 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions. All of that happened before they scored a single point in the game. If you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, Baker Mayfield's been good though. Over his last 3 games as a whole, he's completed 73% of his passes, 324 passing yards per game, over 10 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a 124 passer rating. So Baker Mayfield is playing great right now. And last week he did throw 2 picks, but it wasn't really on him. Just turnovers. Turnovers killed him. Now Baker's going to be on the road against this Panthers pass defense that did a really good job against him the first time they saw him. Baker Mayfield against the Panthers earlier in the season, just 14 of 29, 202 yards, 7 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 68 passer rating. And it could have been a lot worse if you take away the 75-yard touchdown pass to Mike Evans. If you take out that one play, Baker Mayfield was just 13 of 28, 127 yards with a pick, 44.8 passer rating. So yeah, Baker really struggled against this Panthers defense the first time they saw him. And that game was at home at Tampa. As we know, this Carolina defense plays better at home. On the road this year, the Panthers are allowing over 28 points per game, 6.5 yards per pass attempt, and an average opponent passer rating of 93. At home, those numbers dropped to 22, 5.8, and an 85.8. Now, a positive angle for Baker Mayfield here would be he's been excellent against the blitz this year, and the Panthers blitz a lot. They're 6th in the NFL in blitz rate. Baker Mayfield, when blitzed this season, 9th in yards per attempt, 10th in passer grade, 1st in interceptions, 8th in turnover-worthy play, 4th in pressure to sack, and 6th in passer rating. And another positive angle for Baker Mayfield here, I mentioned that the Panthers defense plays better at home. Well, Baker Mayfield actually plays better on the road. On the season, Baker Mayfield's got a 103.5 passer rating on the road, 18 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. At home, it drops to 88, 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So Baker Mayfield's been a warrior on the road this year. As far as Tampa Bay giving Baker some run support, probably not going to be there. I mean, they had a nice little 3-game stretch. It looked like Rashad White was getting it going on the ground. But in the last 3 games, the Bucs are averaging just 2.9 yards per carry as a team, just 75 rushing yards per game. You could see in the 3 games before that, they're averaging close to 134 rush yards per game on 4.78 yards per carry. And it looked like the Bucs were getting a bit of a run game going, but yeah, it faded quickly. I feel like we do have to point out, though, one of those games during that little hot streak was against the Panthers. Against Carolina, they ran the ball 28 times for 128 yards. That's 4.6 yards per carry. So the Bucs were able to run the ball in Carolina last time. But I don't think there's enough evidence here to predict that happening again. This Panthers run defense has really improved the second half of the season. You can see in weeks 1 through 6, they were allowing 144 rushing yards per game on 4.86 yards per carry. They were looking like one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. But in weeks 8 through 15, just 3.38 yards per carry allowed. Now, I cut it off at 15 because if you look at the last 2 weeks, it actually looks like they're regressing back. In the last 2 weeks, they've allowed 4.59 yards per carry. So maybe they're regressing back to struggling against the run. But as a whole, the second half of the season, the Panthers have done a really good job against the run. Situational stats on this side of the ball, really no edge here. Bucs offense pretty good on third down. So is Panthers defense. And both the Bucs offense and the Panthers defense really struggle in the red zone. So no edge either way there. Now let's flip it over to the other side of the ball. And Tampa Bay's pass defense really hasn't been anything special all year. 15th in DVOA, 26th in yards per attempt allowed, 23rd in opponent passer rating on the season. And unlike the Bucs passing offense, their pass defense is significantly worse on the road. You can see at home, actually, the Bucs have done a pretty good job against the pass. 11th in passer rating, 17th in yards per attempt, 14th in completion percentage. On the road, those 3 metrics dropped to 29th, 27th, 26th. The Bucs have had a lot of problems stopping the pass on the road. So how are they going to do against Bryce Young here, who's coming off, polar opposite performances here? In week 16, at home versus the Packers, Bryce Young threw for 312 yards, 8.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no picks, a 110 passer rating. He looked great. Then he followed that up by going on the road to Jacksonville and was absolutely abysmal. Just 3.5 yards per attempt, 112 yards, no touchdowns and a pick, and a 53 passer rating. So, I guess you could look at these 2 games and be like, hey, his last home game, he played great against a vulnerable Packers pass defense. Here he is at home against a vulnerable Tampa Bay Bucs pass defense. So I guess maybe there's an angle there, but as a whole, I think we could chalk Bryce Young up to definitely unpredictable to probably unreliable. But you know what? On that note, if we pull up Bryce Young's home away splits, I guess there's a little bit of an angle here. On the road, Bryce Young struggled, to put it delicately. Just 5 yards per attempt, 54% completions, 5 touchdowns, 6 picks, 64.9 passer rating. But at home, these numbers aren't electric, but 6.1 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks, and 84.8 passer rating. You can see much better at home. Still not great, but much better at home. The first time Bryce Young saw the Bucs, it was pretty brutal. 48% completions, no touchdowns, a pick, of 52 passer rating. But based on what we just said, that game was in Tampa, so we should see a better effort out of him here at home. Now, as far as the Panthers getting the run game going, it's going to be tough sledding, man, because the Bucs run defense is hot right now. It's the best part of this Bucs team right now is the run defense. On their last 5 games, they're allowing just 3.47 yards per carry, 86.8 rush yards per game. On the season, the Bucs are now up to 11th in run defense DVOA, 14th in adjusted line yards, and 5th in yards per carry allowed. Panthers run game on the season, 25th in DVOA, 28th in adjusted line yards, 23rd in yards per carry. Panthers really haven't been able to run the ball all year, and if you isolate it to just their last 3 games, 3.72 yards per carry isn't laugh out loud bad, but it's by no means good. 94 rush yards per game. So even though it's at home in Carolina, I really don't see the Panthers getting the run going here. The first game on the road in Tampa, Carolina ran the ball 34 times for 133 yards. It's 3.9 yards per carry, so it's not a terrible rushing performance. I guess maybe we can expect about the same. It's not really game-changing numbers there, though. Situational stats on this side of the ball, no edge on third downs. Both the Bucs defense and Carolina's offense terrible on third downs. Definitely an edge for the Bucs defense in the red zone, though. Tampa Bay defensively 4th in the red zone. Carolina offensively 25th. As far as betting this one, I mean, this one kind of sucks because obviously Carolina plus 4.5 has to be the move. I mean, we know that's what you're supposed to bet here. Teams that need a win in the last week of the season to either make the playoffs or improve their playoff seeding. So a team that needs the win against a team that's been mathematically eliminated in a game that's meaningless to them, they have a terrible record against the spread. Meaning everyone looks at these games and they see, okay, Tampa Bay needs this game and Carolina doesn't, so they all bet the Bucs. You've been getting smoked in the last few years of NFL using that logic. That just doesn't work. We know that. So obviously Carolina plus 4.5 is the move. It's just, it hurts a little bit. So Carolina plus 4.5, I doubt it makes the top bets or anything, but got to do it. Next game, Buffalo on the road in Miami. The Dolphins are now catching 2.5 points at home. Total sitting at 48.5 for this one. Public's looking pretty split here with most of the sharp money coming in on the Bills according to the data. This line was sitting at 3 all week. Then on Friday morning dropped down to 2.5. And now I'm pretty much seeing 2.5s across the board. So some sharp group out there, someone bought in on the Dolphins pretty heavy at 3 because there are still 3s out there, but for the most part, I'm seeing 2.5s. Let's talk injuries, and the only injury to the Buffalo Bills offense is Mitch Morse at center. He missed Friday's practice with an illness, so his status is up in the air. I would say trending towards not playing. He hasn't missed a game all year, and center's a weird position because entering the season, it's one of the least important positions as far as filling the hole in free agency or in the draft, but that is not a position that you want to lose suddenly before the playoffs. It's like losing the holder on your kick team. Like, yeah, you don't prioritize getting a holder in the offseason or building your roster, but you don't want to lose that position right before the most important game of the year. So I would imagine the Bills really want to get this guy on the field. On the defensive side of the ball, no new injuries for the Buffalo defense. Milano, White, and Jones obviously still out. They've all missed multiple months now. Other than that, Buffalo completely healthy on defense. Miami offensively, 2 big question marks here. Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, both missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday, but both were out there practicing on Friday, so I would imagine both of these guys are game time decisions. It was looking like Jalen Waddle wasn't going to play. Now it's looking like he has a shot at playing. Miami definitely missing pieces on defense. Xavier Howard's been ruled out for this one at corner. Jalen Phillips still on the IR. He's missed serious time now. And now Bradley Chubb is out as well on the other side. So the Dolphins missing both edge rushers here. Now they still have that guy Van Ginkel on the edge, so they still have an effective edge rusher on the team, on the active roster, but missing those 2 guys definitely hurting. So let's match these 2 teams up on the field. Buffalo Bills are now 5-1 since switching to Brady at offensive coordinator after starting the season 5-5 with Dorsey. So you would think the Bills make this change at OC and then go 5-1. That means the pass offense has got to be better, right? Well, according to the numbers, not really. In weeks 1 through 10 with Dorsey, they're 3rd in EPA per play, 1st in success rate, 2nd in success rate per dropback, 95.5 passer rating, over 70% completions. Since the switch at OC, 6th, 9th, 18th, 84, and a 57% completions. If anything, on paper, the passing attack has gotten slightly worse, but we do have to mention, look at who they've played since the switch. The Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Eagles. I mean, they've had a rough schedule, so I would not say the passing offense has gotten worse. I would say the offense has just changed. They rely more on the run now. Now, Josh Allen's going to be matched up against the Dolphins pass defense that was looking excellent with Jalen Ramsey on the field. So Jalen Ramsey obviously injured to start the year. When he joined the team, the first 8 games with Ramsey in the lineup, the Dolphins pass defense, 2nd in EPA per play, 3rd in success rate, 3rd in EPA per dropback, 5th in success rate per dropback. They were looking like one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. But then Lamar Jackson just absolutely smoked them. One of the best performances we've seen from a quarterback all season. He was just 18 of 21, 321 yards, 15.3 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, no picks, and a perfect 158.3 passer rating. I mean, it was literally a perfect performance. He absolutely crushed them. Now, the good news for the Dolphins is this one is back at home in Miami, where the defense has been much better. Actually, the Dolphins have struggled to stop the pass on the road all year. On the road, they're 31st in passer rating allowed, 21st in yards per pass attempt, dead last in completion percentage, 21st in takeaway per game. At home, 9th, 12th, 11th, 3rd, 2nd. So this Dolphins defense, night and day difference at home. That being said, if you take a look at the Dolphins schedule, it makes sense. I mean, their opponents on the road have been much more difficult than their opponents at home. I mean, look at their schedule at home. You got the Titans, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Panthers, the Giants, the Broncos, the Jets, and the Cowboys. So they have the Cowboys is their tougher game at home, but If you compare that to their matchups on the road, you got Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. They've seen much more difficult quarterbacks on the road. I'm not trying to take away from the home away splits for the Dolphins pass defense, but it's important to take note they've seen much tougher competition on the road. And as we know, Josh Allen historically has played very well against Miami. On his career, he's got a 110.8 average passer rating against the Dolphins, 7.9 yards per attempt, 2.8 to a 0.5 touchdown to interception ratio. That being said, if you take a look specifically at his last 2 trips to Miami, not nearly as good. Just 6 yards per pass attempt and an 88 average passer rating. And just like the Dolphins pass defense, Josh Allen, another guy that has notable home away splits here. At home, Josh Allen's got a 102 passer rating, 7.9 yards per attempt, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. On the road, just an 80.2 passer rating, 6.7 yards per attempt, 9 touchdowns and 9 picks. Now, as I mentioned before, the Bills are going to be looking to run the ball in this game. Since Brady took over at offensive coordinator, they're running the ball on over 50% of their snaps compared to just 39.4% of their snaps under Dorsey. So we know we're going to see a run-heavy attack for the Bills because that's what we've seen from Brady since he took over. And on paper, based on what we've seen so far this season, it's going to be a challenge for him because Miami actually does play good defense against the run. On the season, they're just 21st in DVOA, tied for 5th in yards per carry allowed. But if you look at their home away splits, we keep going back to these home away splits. Dolphins run defense at home, 1st in yards per carry allowed, 1st in rushing yards per game allowed. So the Dolphins have been an extremely difficult defense to go on the road and run on. When Buffalo saw Miami earlier in the season, James Cook was completely shut down on the ground. Just 12 carries for 29 yards. That's just 2.4 yards per carry. I think James Cook will be involved in this offense, but I think we're more likely to see him get production through the air. We've seen Justice Hill, Tajay Spears, Antonio Gibson all do numbers through the air against Miami in their last 5 games. Those 3 combined for 190 receiving yards on 15 catches. That's 12.7 yards per reception. Situational stats on this side of the ball, edge definitely goes to Buffalo, the number 1 on 3rd down, 2nd in the red zone. Dolphins just 11th and 29th. But if you look at the Dolphins defense just at home, they're 5th on 3rd downs and 5th in the red zone. So this Dolphins defense, on paper, night and day difference at home. Now on the other side of the ball, this Buffalo pass defense, this has been the real difference maker for the Bills here. When those guys went down, Tre'Davious White, Matt Milano, when those guys went down, they were struggling for a little while. But look at this. In the last 6 games, the Bills pass defense, 3rd in EPA per play, 2nd in EPA per dropback, 9th in success rate per dropback, and an average opponent pass rating of 66.6. Compared to the 6 games before that, we're towards the back of the league. 32nd, 29th, 31st, a 106.6 opponent passer rating. So the Bills pass defense out of nowhere has shown up in a big way. Now you might be thinking, maybe the Bills just played a stretch of easy quarterbacks. They played Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts. All elite competition, and that's important here because Tua on the road in Miami is probably the toughest challenge of all of them. The Dolphins pass offense, as we know, on the season, one of the best in the NFL. 2nd in DVOA, 3rd in passer rating, 2nd in yards per attempt, 1st in completion percentage. Now, the big stats that everyone's talking about is Tua's numbers against Buffalo. Historically, he has really struggled against the Bills. But if you isolate it to just his 3 starts with Mike McDaniel as head coach, they're actually not nearly as bad. 66% completions, 8.5 yards per pass attempt, 1.3 touchdowns to 0.3 interceptions, and a 103.6 passer rating. So he's actually been solid against the Bills in his last 3 starts with the new head coach. The problem for Tua when he plays Buffalo is just keeping him clean in the pocket because, as we know, Tua at home with a clean pocket is about as good as it gets in the NFL. Tua, when given a clean pocket this year, he's 3rd in yards per attempt, 3rd in completion percentage, 1st in PFF passer grade, 2nd in passer rating. When pressured, 26th, 39th, 20th, and 33rd. Now, the good news for the Dolphins on that front is their offensive line is finally healthy. Robert Hunt back at right guard. He was the most recent injury, but they've been dealing with injuries on that offensive line all year, so they got the unit back. Miami offensive line healthy. And I think the Dolphins may be able to run the ball here because we just talked about how the Bills pass defense did a complete 180, a complete turnaround. It's not really the case for the run defense. In the last 5 games, the Bills have been getting run on a little bit despite winning. They're allowing 4.6 yards per carry, 111 rushing yards per game. On the season, they're at 18th in DVOA, 28th in yards per carry allowed. Now, on the season, we've seen this Miami Dolphins rushing attack fade. Weeks 1 through 6, they were on pace to break rushing records. They're averaging 181.8 rushing yards per game, 6.49 yards per carry. In weeks 7 through 16, we saw those numbers drop. Just 106 rushing yards per game and 3.92 yards per carry. So the Dolphins rushing attack in the second half of the year, not nearly as potent, But that being said, last week against the Ravens, they got blown out. It certainly wasn't from a lack of run game. Dolphins, that one, ran the ball 25 times for 154 yards. That's 6.2 yards per carry. So I think the Dolphins are going to be able to run the ball here. And we know Raheem Mostert being highly questionable is tough, but last time the Dolphins saw Buffalo, Achane went nuts. Carried the ball 8 times for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns, 12.6 yards per carry. So, and that was with Matt Milano healthy. Situational stats on this side of the ball, edge definitely goes to the Dolphins offense. They're 9th on third down, 4th in the red zone. Bills defense 18th and 18th. As far as betting this one, I think Dolphins plus 2.5 is the sharp move here for sure. The problem is I'm a little torn because I have a future bet on the Bills to win the AFC East. I think I got it like plus 360 or so, plus 380 maybe. So I don't know if I want to hedge that. Essentially, I'm holding on to a Bills money line ticket at plus 3 whatever. So I probably should just let it ride out. But gun to my head, if I'm picking this game and I don't have any action on it, I think the move is Dolphins plus 2.5. That line movement tells a story. I feel like every single person I talk to is on Buffalo. This seems like a perfect spot at home in Miami to kind of break that stigma that the Dolphins can't beat good teams. They can't beat the Bills. I think Dolphins plus 2.5 is the move. I don't know if I'll actually bet it because of the existing tickets I have open, but yeah, I think I'd lean Miami plus 2.5 here. Like I said, we will go through all the games live Sunday morning at 11 a.m. So if you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. If you don't want to wait for the live show, I'll post the final tickets Saturday night. Let's say around 10, 11 p.m. Eastern time. So if you don't want to wait for the live show, just go on the website. It'll be posted there, KyleKirms.com. Also, there's a link to the Discord on the homepage, KyleKirms.com. There's a link that says to join the Discord if you're interested in that. So week 18, let's finish the season out strong. It's been a fun one. Thank you guys for watching, but we're not done yet. Remember to bet responsibly, and I will see you Sunday morning, or I'll see you in the Discord.